What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Mystic Watch, and today is another Grand Cross video day. So we're going to be making the gear guide. This is going to be one of the bigger guides that are going to be on my channel, so hopefully this is done well enough so you guys can understand. This is going to be Beginner's Guide number 5. So once again, I want to say thank you so much for the support. I've never had this much support on my channel before, and it feels great. You know, I just want to keep pumping out content because the amount of people in my comment section that are like, hey, this is helpful, thank you so much for this, or just asking questions like, what do I do in this situation? I'm like, oh, gotta make a video on that now. So things like that, and it just feels really fun. It's been a while since I've genuinely enjoyed doing this, so I'm glad this is working out. Moving on with the guide series. If you guys haven't watched the previous guides, I have a playlist of all the guides. Make sure you check them out. Everything is numbered. You know, this is number 5, there's 4 before here. You know, do what you gotta do, watch what you gotta watch. But today's guide is going to be on gear fully explained. Now, gear is a very, very in-depth mechanic, system in this game. So I'm not gonna be able to do these like my other videos have been mostly like 10 minutes long. This is probably gonna be over 20 minutes, so just keep that in mind. I mean, I'm sure you can see the time. So never mind me, I'm just boosted. Okay. And I'm gonna be constantly swapping back between my JP version of the game and global, because there are just some things that I can't explain properly. I can explain them, but I want to give you a visual representation. Now, start off, we're actually going to look at JP, and I'm going to show you what the ideal, situation looks like. So let's take a look at my king. And here we have maxed out UR gear. This is endgame gear. Now, keep in mind, UR gear does not exist in global, only up to SSR. So the rarity of gear goes common, uncommon, rare, SR, SSR. UR gear was introduced a few months back in JP, and will probably be introduced within the next 2 or 3 months on global. And the way UR gear works, I'm not going to explain it too much. It's just a maxed out SSR gear that has been awakened 1 rarity. Gear, so that's all I'm going to explain. So don't worry about that. Now let's go take a look at, for example, let's take a look at this. What the heck? Who has my Who the heck is wearing my gear? Arthur, why are you wearing my gear? Here, we're gonna snatch it off of Arthur just so we can take a look. Now, this is, ignoring the top 2, just pretend these are SSR. This is what a global version of a perfect set of end gear game looks like. So you're gonna have a 5-star plus 5 set of SSR gear. Keep in mind, if I showed you all my gear on JP, I do not have that many. You can just pretend that these UR sets are SSR sets. If you take a look at that, I have like 1, 2, 3, like 3 actual complete sets of SSR gear, and then just a bunch of random stuff mixed in between. But even though, I've been playing this game for 8 months, getting full SSR gear is something that takes a really, really long time, because gear is just a complicated system, and there's a lot of depth to it. So just keep that in mind. Now, let's start explaining gear little by little. And I'm going to be using my Meliodas as an example. Here I have Meliodas with a set of rare gear. To start off, we're going to be we're going to be showing you the different sets that exist in the game. You can see here on the top right corner, this is what determines the set. And if you actually click on the individual pieces over here, you can see what the sets do. So if you have 4 attack, you get 20% attack. If you have 2 defense, you get 20% defense, so on. Crit chance, crit defense, recovery, crit damage, whatever, and so on. The main 3 that we're going to be focusing on are HP, defense, and attack. The thing with this game, 99% of the gear you're going to make is going to be these 3. It's going to be a combination of 4 attack pieces and 2 defense, or 4 HP and 2 defense. The other, 6 sets of gear for the most part, are irrelevant, with the exception of like a handful of people building crit damage. Besides that, you are going to never see any other set of gear in this game unless they magically or drastically buff the other sets up. The major two sets that you're going to build is a HP defense set, HP defense, or an attack and defense set. For attack, you need 4 pieces, so you can see here that I got 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gives me a 20% attack bonus, and I have 2 defense on the right here. Otherwise, I could also do 4 HP and 2 defense and get the bonus as well. You could also do 3 sets of defense, but not as good. You know, you want the mix in there. 3 defense set is optimal on like niche characters, but besides that, don't worry about it. So attack defense or HP defense. Now that we got that, kind of sorted out, how do you go about picking the rarity of your gear? I talked about, a bunch of different rarities. Clearly, you want to go for SSR gear. That's the end game, right? You want to go for SSR gear, but realistically, that's never going to happen for a while. It's going to take a really, really long time to get SSR gear. Even a few pieces of SSR gear is going to take a really long time. And what happens, like, what do the different rarities actually do? What changes in the rarities are the main stats. So if you take a look at here, you can see that the range of my main stat. So this main stat is adjustable, right? You can, pay the amount and you can re-roll the main stat. And whatever happens, right? Like the main stat can range from 180 to 240. So you can keep re-rolling until you get whatever. Now, if you take a look, let's take a look at this uncommon. So this is one rarity below. The main stat ranges from 120 to 160. So we're talking about a very, very significant drop-off. We're talking about 80 off the top, right? When it comes to attack, which is a pretty big deal. Now, it's not only 80 off the main stat. They scale a lot worse. So, well, I'm just throwing an arbitrary number out there. I'll just say that a max attack, a 5-star, +5 uncommon gear or uncommon bracelet might have a max attack of 500, whereas this rare gear might have a max attack of 800, right? So there is a difference that, gets exponentially bigger the higher up in the stars you go, or the more you upgrade gear, that gap in rarity is more noticeable. Now let's talk a little bit about the actual upgrading process. You can see here that I have this belt at 2 stars, and if you do the hero road, you will be able to, or it'll force you to upgrade a piece of gear to 1 star. So at least, that much. If you got into that point, you'll understand, but if not, I'll explain it. When you get a fresh piece of gear, let's say I wanted to upgrade this, right? I would have to consume my enhancement material, which you just get from playing the game through events, whatever, or disenchanting gear. So you're playing this, and the way it works is, you do this, and now magically you get, it's +1, and your stats move up. You can do this up until a +5. Once you hit a +5, you get this. That's the wrong button. You get this. So from here, you end up having to awaken your gear. So we'll actually do that on here just to show. Okay, so I awakened it, and the +5 reset. Now you have to go through that whole process again, where you have to go from level 0 to +5. And you now have a reduced chance of moving up. So for each star value that it is, the success rate drops. And it's typically 20% drop. So no star is 100%, 80%, 60, 40, 20. And then once you have 5 stars, going to +5 on that final, star rating is a 10% success rate. The nice thing is there is a failure gauge, so for each time it fails, this gauge goes up, and you can consume this gauge to give you a guaranteed success. So there is a pity system involved with this, which didn't exist when JP first came out and made me sad, but it's a really good system. And if you're too lazy, remember that you can just use this automated system to upgrade your gear and set it to however you like. Now that that's explained, let's talk a little bit about the main stats. So the way this game works is main stats are randomized when you get the gear, and you can reroll the main stats however many times as you want with gold, and you can reroll main stats for any rarity with gold. That's not an issue. The way it works in this terms is pair them like this. So you have top row, middle row, bottom row, and top row focuses on attack, middle row focuses on defense, bottom row focuses on HP. So their main stat will always be HP. There's no other main stat for the bottom row. Main stat for the middle row is always defense. Main stat for the top row is always attack. Then the other thing is the left hand side will always have a bigger main stat than the right hand side. Let's use this as an example. I have 277 attack, 151, 139, 80. You know, well, this one's different because this one's more enhanced, but you get the idea. So they pair up, you know, from left to right in terms of, you know, like, is it attack, HP, or defense? And they, from the left column and the right column, there's a significant increase in main stat here. And this matters because when you want to slowly upgrade your gear, you're always going to upgrade the left hand side first. So as you move on and you want to upgrade to SSR gear, you're going to upgrade this side first. I don't know if I mentioned this because this is my second take of the video, but do not upgrade SR gear, ever. Right? It's a waste of an investment. And the reason is, every time you gain a star, you unlock, you know, one of these substat sections. And you have the ability to reroll substats. You can see here that, you know, this is maximum, but this HP plus 1.2%, these are the 4 options I can get, but there's also a range. I can get up to 3% HP. So, you know, this 1.2% is really low. I want to reroll it, right? So you can go ahead and reroll it for gold. However, if you had a SSR or SR set, we'll look at SR in particular. Who has SR? Just give me that. Let's say I wanted to reroll this. You know, this is a bad line. I wanted to reroll this. You see here that I no longer have the option to reroll it for gold. I have the option to reroll it for gems or anvils. But anvils are a hard commodity to get, and I'll worry about making a video on that later. But realistically, no one wants to use gems, even though I probably spent over 1,000 gems rerolling substats because anvils never existed. When it comes to rerolling, common, oh, I hit my keyboard. Common, uncommon, and rare gear can all reroll their substats with gold, whereas SR and SSR can only reroll their substats with gems. Every single rarity can reroll substats with anvils, but it is a waste to do it on rare gear and below. So now, when you're picking your gear, you want to see, do I have the proper materials to awaken this, to upgrade this? Do I have enough gold? And once you kind of figure that out, you'll get the idea of how expensive it is to upgrade stuff once you start upgrading a piece or two. But the safest start is to go with full rare. Now in JP, when we first started, we started with rare on the left and common on the right hand side because it was a lot cheaper to upgrade, and we didn't have as much gold, you know, in the game to farm as we do in on global. So maybe, like, if this was day 3 of JP, I'd have like 1 million less gold to work with right now. But what we used to do is common on the right and rare on the left, because you wanted that bigger main stat on the left, and because the right hand side, you know, has such lower main stat, that switching rarities isn't as big of a jump. But what's important is the substats, because substats are all percentages, and when it comes to percentages, like, you know, they are massive increases in your stats. So I showed you here, I have 2 lines of HP. I can have 3 more lines of HP. I can have a maximum of 15% HP gain. So if you have a common piece of gear, you can easily get 15% HP, because it's so cheap to reroll the substats. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you're missing out on 1,000 flat HP, because you're gaining 15% HP from the substat, and 15%, you know, is going to give you like 7k HP off of this right here. So that's the logic behind that, and it's perfectly okay with using common gear or uncommon gear on the right, and then slowly upgrading that over time, depending on how much gold you have farmed or how much materials you have farmed. Because it's not as simple as just like, I want to upgrade rare gear or SR gear or SSR gear, because when it comes to upgrading, it requires materials, awakening materials, that can be found in several spots between deathmatch drops, salvaging equipment or disenchanting equipment, whatever you want to call it, and gear summons. And gear summons are hard to do right now. If you guys don't know what I mean when I say gear summons, let me show you real quick. Gear summons is this little equipment draw, whatever. So this is what I say when I'm talking about gear summons. You go to rates, you can see here that you can actually get a 5-star awakening stone, 4-star, and 3-star. So it is a really nice way to grab these things, but it's expensive. So until you get more gold introduced in the game, it's going to be hard to do. So that's why we stick with the lower rarities for now, because it's easier to work with. Going back to the gear itself, so I explained the +5 when it comes to the level, the stars. Let me go over the substats. Every time you awaken, you unlock a new substat box. When it comes to substats, there's only one substat you really want to go for, and that is whatever that main stat is. If you're on, the way these substats are divided is the 2 attack related gear only get attack related substats, the defense get defense related substats, and the HP gear get HP related substats. So for example, the belt and the orb or the rune, whatever, are, you know, provide HP main stat. So their substats will provide, you know, HP related substats. So in this case, it's pure HP, regeneration rate, recovery rate, or lifesteal. You want to go for whatever the main stat is. So for HP stuff, you want to go pure HP across the board. For defense, you want to go pure, you know, just defense across the board. And then for attack, you want to go full attack. So I would reroll this crit damage into attack. And the reason for that is, one, it's just the best stat to go for. And you can just take my word on that. That's just how you do it. The other reason is, these 3 stats, attack, defense, and HP, are the most critical stats in the game. These are the stats that most affect your CP, or sorry, your combat class. If you raise your crit damage, your CC doesn't go up. If you raise your crit chance, your CC doesn't go up. And having a bigger CC is actually a valuable thing here. If you guys are coming from Epic 7, your combat power is irrelevant. Like, you could have a 100k combat power unit, and it does not mean anything. Whereas you could have like a 50k combat power unit, and they could be the most broken unit in the game. That number was arbitrary. Whereas here, it actually means something, because it determines who goes first, and that is a super big factor in this game. Whoever has the higher combat class goes first in this game. That's why that matters. So that is why you're going to be re-rolling substats: attack on attack gear, defense on defense gear, and HP on HP gear. That is the substats explained. And I believe for the most part I explained pretty much everything. So let's take a look if there's anything else to go over. I guess what I'll do real quickly is I can show you here. You can go to Diane, and you can disenchant gear here. And if you disenchant, the higher rarity stuff you disenchant, the higher rarity, you know, material you'll get. The thing is, she doesn't give you that much, so it's not like the most ideal way to farm it. And, you know, let's say you want to slowly start working on SSR gear, but you can't get any of the shards. You can actually just like keep upgrading stuff. It costs 6 to go to the next rarity, so you can keep upgrading them until you can actually make an SSR stone. And the way these stones are needed is it's whatever star you are trying to get to, that's how many stones you need. So to go from 0 to 1 star, you need 1 stone. From 1 to 2, you need 2, and so on up until the 5th star, where you need 5 stones. And that is pretty much the full gear guide. Hopefully that explains it to you. So TLDR, to wrap things up, never craft or never upgrade SR gear. Focus solely on rare, common, and like SSR. But ideally, you start with rare and you upgrade to SSR over time. Focus on the left hand side first and then the right hand side. It is okay to have a lower right hand side and focus on substats rather than the main stat. Attack, defense, or HP defense are the go-to pairs of gear. All the other gear is irrelevant. If you want to figure out which one to go with, you know, you'll get the feel for it over time, but your damage dealers are getting attack, and your tanks and your supports are getting HP. And yeah, like that's really it. Once we get farther along in the game, eventually we're going to be rocking this nice, wonderful purple gear once it releases. When it comes to rerolling stats, anvils exist in the game, and you can use anvils to reroll stats. It is just a replacement for whatever the other currency is. So for this, anvils will replace the 5 anvils will do the same thing that 2 gems would. If you used anvils instead of gold for rare gear, 3 anvils will do the same thing that whatever that amount of gold is. It is a waste to use anvils on anything that isn't SSR gear. And currently there's not a lot of anvils in the game. Don't worry about it too much. More will come out as the game goes along. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. This is one of the more important stuff. I hope I explained it to the best of my knowledge, because to me, I've known this stuff for so long, so I might have missed something. But that's really it. Next guide, I believe, is a gem guide that I'm making, and then after that I'll be doing upcoming banners that are going to be coming soon to the game, and then we'll continue back on the Beginner's Guide series. Beginner's Guide will probably just continue indefinitely as long as there's something for me to make. So if you still have an issue with anything, leave it down below and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.